Hey, welcome to the Jewish Road Podcast. My name is Matt Davis, and I'm here with this guy over here.
Yep, I'm Ron.
There you go.
I'm the dad.
And we are joined by we have a family here and a family there. We have our friends Josh and Tommy Doyle. Hello, guys.
How's it going?
Thanks for having us on.
You bet. You are from Uncharted Ministries and Uncharted Adventures. You are a couple guys that somewhere along the road fell in love with Israel. How did that all start?
Man, that's a great question. So we had been hearing about Israel from my dad for a number of years because he went on a Bible tour with some pastors, and he just said, you guys got to get there. So when we were old enough, each one of us, who come from a family of 6, it was, I think when we were 12 years old, you get to go to Israel. So that was our big thing to look forward to. And when I hit 12, I went to Israel, and I didn't really enjoy it. I was too young. I just was like, it's
a lot of rocks.
A lot of rocks. Oh, cool. Look at that rock over there. It looks like the other rocks they're pointing out. But it was in my blood. I mean, I always loved it. Tommy and I had started going and bringing young adults there to do some more adventures, hiking, backpacking, going down and sleep out under the stars with the Bedouins. So now we can't wait to get back every time after we leave from Israel. We love it.
And
yeah, we grew up in Colorado, so we've always had a heart for the outdoors and just being outside, love God's creation and just getting to revel in it. So we had read a Backpacker magazine article, and it was talking about, you've got to check out the Jesus Trail. And Josh actually is the one that found this article. He showed it to me, but we immediately jumped on it. We're like, this would be incredible. And basically it's starting from Nazareth, hiking all the way to Galilee. And it's a 40-mile, 3-day hike. And we thought, let's check it out. This would be awesome. Sure enough, the hike was awesome. Our first time scouting it, incredible. Got lost a few times, but that turned into, that was kind of the backbone of us bringing mission teams out to Israel. And kind of the whole purpose of that, bringing mission teams out there, was to spend time with the people of the land. And that's all the people, the Jewish people, the Bedouins, the Arabs, the Palestinians, and just spend time with them. And so this kind of started it off for us. I believe this was almost 11 years ago. That we would take teams and we would hike, they'd land and we'd hike the Jesus Trail. And then after that, the bonding experience from hiking 40 miles in 3 days jet lagged is pretty unique. So everybody gets along great. And then that just kind of, spurred on our love for the land. We would spend time in the West Bank doing, optical or medical clinics just as a way to reach out to the Palestinians there. And then we would go spend time with Holocaust survivors in Jerusalem, have a big event we'd put on for them. And then finally, these trips, we'd cap it off with a night under the stars, like Josh said, camping with the Bedouins. And, in the middle of nowhere, like nomadic people group, one of the coolest things. So this really started our love for Israel, just getting there, being on the ground with the people. Since then we've been going annually at least a few times.
we got to talk to your dad, Tom Doyle, on an earlier podcast right after everything took place on October 7th. And interesting. So you guys have this ministry to the Middle East, Uncharted Ministries, and you're reaching out not only to the Jewish people, but to the Arabs. And we got to hear a few stories of what's going on there. But we were going to be joining you for taking our tour, which was October 8th, which was unbelievable, the timing of all of that. We remember that Saturday morning when everybody who was on our tour was now texting us and calling us saying, what's going on? And we thought, well, maybe this is something that's going to blow over. And obviously we knew very quickly that this was not one of those situations. And so that got derailed, and obviously everything in the tourism piece for Israel has suddenly changed. But you guys have gone over there recently. and really the world has changed since October 7th. What was some of the experiences? What is the tone as people who've been there before October 7th and since October 7th? What's changed in the people? What's changed in the tone and just the overall spirit of Israel?
Yeah, so we've been there a number of times, probably been close to 30 times to Israel. And so when we went after October 7th, I mean, it's just a completely different country. But at the same time, they carried on as normal. And in some of the, major cities, it felt like it always has when we've gone to Jerusalem or to Tel Aviv. It felt like it didn't feel like there was a war going on down south. But the tone shifted. Everyone, all the Jewish people that we came across, were so thankful that we were coming over and standing with them and supporting them. And so that changed completely. I mean, I think every trip I'd been on before that, I felt like I was a nuisance going to the wall. It's like, excuse me, getting out of the Jewish people's way. Like, it just felt like, more Americans
Tourists.
coming over.
Right.
Yeah, tourists. And it's shifted completely. They are welcoming us with open arms. There are people stopping in the street, coming up and hugging us, kissing their hands, saying, thank you for coming. And grown men crying in the street saying thanks for coming. So the Jewish people, we felt, are hurting, and they felt humbled and just so thankful that people were coming to stand with them. And so we feel like this is a time to go and to love on them.
Yeah, I'm wondering how is the spirit amongst the IDF, if you have contact with any of them, or how it is, because we're getting reports like, for example, Israel Today just recently reported that about 36% of the IDF, they're not sure what the end game is going to be, and so what is it like amongst those people that you're able to have contact with?
Yeah, troop morale, thankfully, when we were there, middle to end of December, was very high. They took this serious. They took this personal. Every single one of them has somebody in their lives that was directly affected by the massacre. So they, may have frustrations with leadership and knowing what that end game is, but they know that their task, their one task that's in front of them right now is eradicating Hamas, and they're doing that any means necessary. And the soldiers that we got to spend time with, most of these soldiers are friends, colleagues, ministry partners that on October 7th were called up into the reserves, and they're fathers, they're mothers, they have kids, they have young families and stuff, but the patriotism there is very strong. And it was great to see that they took that call and they were proud to do their duty for their country. So I agree. Yeah, it's a tough question. Like, what's going to happen with Gaza after this? If they root out Hamas completely, like, how is it going to be governed, and how are they going to, make sure that the same thing doesn't happen again? That's, there's a lot of big questions there, but I'm hoping that from what we've seen, I'm hoping that they're focused on their first task, and that's, getting rid of Hamas. So
yeah, there's even amongst that group, it seems like, and I don't know what you're sensing from this, but even as things keep heating up in the north with Hezbollah, that they want to eradicate that threat as well.
Mm-hmm.
Are you finding that?
And so we've been talking to our partners in Israel, and they believe that there will be some sort of escalation, whether it's some flare-ups from time to time, or if they do try to push Hezbollah further north, that's still on the table. They do believe that something will happen, and that could prolong this conflict, of course, and tourism and impacting everything for the state of Israel. But it does look like, if you talk to, if Tommy and I talk to our friends that are serving currently, they do believe that there will be some sort of operation up there. There's, of course, stuff going on currently, but anything like a ground invasion or some larger flare-ups, they think there will be something that'll happen.
It's been interesting too. Like even One of our friends, he was a tour guide of ours, and one of the things he reached out to me on October 8th as he was reporting for service, right? So these are friends who are running ministries over there. All of a sudden, like, oh, I forgot that you're in the reserves. The reserves felt like this thing that you do, once a month. You show up and you get your training. You don't realize 300,000+ of them are going, and they are abandoning their normal life and their normal jobs and their families to, like, now they're on the front lines within hours. But I remember talking to him, and I just said, how can we pray? And he said, pray that we are able to finish the job. He said this on October 8th, pray that we're able to finish the job before the world stops us. And what foresight, just insight to even see that on October 8th, when we were all thinking the world compassion should, in a reasonable world, be pointed towards Israel, and how things have changed. To that end, I'm just curious, because you guys have done so much work amongst Arab communities, specifically in Gaza and Bethlehem and the West Bank and beyond, we've talked about, we want to point all of the war effort towards Hamas and not the people of Gaza. But what we've also seen is that there is a large population of the Palestinians, the normal civilians in Gaza, that on October 7th were cheering on Hamas. Is that the situation amongst all of the people? Who do you know that is saying something different amongst the Palestinians?
So sadly, that is, you see those statistics on polls they've taken in Gaza and in the West Bank. Like, what is your perception of Hamas? Was the attack justified? Overwhelmingly, a lot of them have supported it. Now, you also got to think that the psychological factor that some of them may believe that if they say anything otherwise, they could be killed. So that is a real possibility. But I would say that, yes, there is still strong support for Hamas. And sadly, as you are well aware, I think it stems at such a young age. Like, it's taught in how they count and learn math is how to, hurt or shoot Jewish people. Like, it's the whole way they're brought up in places like Gaza is, aimed at hating Jewish people. So sadly, that a lot of that is ingrained in a large part of the population. The people we know, some believers, some not. We know many that are Arab Israeli, and then those that are Palestinian, and a mixture of Christian and Muslim. And a vast majority of them are, just sickened and heartbroken by what happened on the 7th. That smaller percentage of the people we know, non-believers, do have expressed, frustration and anger and kind of that narrative that, well, hey, there was some animosity before this happened. It's difficult because countries surrounding Israel, Jordan, Egypt, these other countries that have big populations of Palestinians, they kind of have their news coming from one source, So they're getting their source that is already leaning anti-Israeli, anti-Jewish. So it's tough because, what do you do when the only news they're getting there is this tainted, reality that's not happening. So it's a difficult thing, but we have many friends and partners that truly know that it was evil, like demonic stuff that happened on the 7th.
And they did not.
It's just hard to reconcile that. Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
Oh, so yeah, and they did not support that, and we've got a guy who I think of right now who he was praying for Israel. He saw a lady, an Israeli, paraded through the streets, and he said what they did was so wrong. And while she was getting paraded through the streets, he was crying. He was watching this going, why are people like, this is sick. They're cheering, grown men are like crying that they have an Israeli and they're marching her through the streets. And who knows what is going to happen to her. I think we all know what's going to happen to her. But, So yes, there is some sympathizers, and this man in particular prays for Israel, and he's, a Palestinian. He's in Gaza currently. He's up on the Egyptian border and just trying to figure out what's my next steps. It's very sad because no one wants to take them in, and so yes, there are some innocent bystanders.
Let me ask you a question. Going back to kind of the Jewish aspect of these things, you know, I've spent decades reaching the Jewish community and Jewish people, and that's what our ministry here is. A large part of it is to reach the Jewish people with the gospel, and equip the church at the same time in the roots of the faith to be able to, equip them to share Jesus in a way that makes sense to Jews. In light of all of these things that have taken place, I know how difficult it is. I used to go to New York City every year and, engage the Jewish community there with the gospel, with their Messiah, Yeshua, and it was tough. What are you finding over there in the land in light of the things that have happened October 7th amongst the Jewish people? Because the things that we're hearing is that a lot of them are coming back to God from a secular population, coming back to God, not necessarily the Messiah yet, but coming to Judaism, coming back to the God of Abraham. What are you seeing? Are you seeing any of that?
That's a great question. And yes, as you said, a majority of the population there is secular, atheist, agnostic, just don't believe in God. But we have seen a resurgence of, young, especially young people, those in the IDF, reservists called up, and then people that have, survived some of these massacres, questioning like prophetic things, like things that have been written in the Bible and the Torah. They're questioning this as people that wanted nothing to do with it before the attack, and so that is big. To even see that they would be talking about that stuff and bringing that up is humongous, especially for the younger generation. Which, like the younger generation, I'm sure as y'all are aware, are mostly vast majority secular. They're like Jewish by blood and maybe tradition with some of the holidays they celebrate, but not active. So yeah, it's reassuring. It's exciting.
Yeah, I'll jump in there too. So great question. I don't think we should take for granted how open the Jewish people are right now. I mean, they were open, raw. I mean, I've never seen this humility, this side to them. While we were there, I mean, like our stewardess on El Al getting in to Israel, she would be so open about her son that's currently fighting in Gaza, or a family member that was lost, and we weren't going around asking, "Hey, can we lay hands on you and pray?" None of that stuff. But they were wanting us to pray. Anybody and everyone that we came across was affected by this. Israel's not the same, because they're so, humbled by what happened. And so, yeah, I think there's an openness there, and we felt it all over the country like we've never felt before.
You had a chance to go into the Gaza envelope along the border of Gaza just outside, and you got to see the devastation firsthand. Tell me about what was that like going in, the drive in, going from normal Israel to, the kibbutzim that are, this looks like a really beautiful, wonderful place to live, to now crossing the line into seeing these communities surrounding the border and the devastation that you saw.
Well, I mean, it was surreal, to say the least. You can watch stuff on the news or on your phone, and realize that it's brutal, but being there is completely different. We left from Jerusalem, where, as Josh had said, life was going on as normal. It seemed like maybe a few more civilians that are armed, understandably, but going down to that Gaza envelope was something else. We all had on our phones this red alert app that notifies you if there's incoming rockets from Gaza. And as we're going down, It's just getting heavier and heavier. The feeling we pass by as we're getting close to Gaza. First, we see in the distance the smoke billowing from fresh rocket launches from Gaza. As we get closer, we see, the Israelis' response to those launches, and it seems they were effective as they hit like an ammunition depot and big, billowing smoke cloud. So it was getting intense. We drove past this basically wrecking yard where they dragged all the vehicles from the Nova Music Festival and all of these charred, shot up cars that people had lost their lives in and tried escaping in. Going by that it was heavy. And then we get close to the actual what they designated as the IDF combat zone. So from that point forward, you needed to have a an escort, and in our case, we had an armed EMT escort that once we passed that checkpoint, they outfitted us in bulletproof vests and helmets, and so it really sunk in as the rockets are coming over. The IDF is responding back, and meanwhile, the birds are still chirping. Like, it's gorgeous out. Like, there's crops ready to be harvested. If you didn't hear all these noises of war, it would seem normal. But yeah, it was something else to get to witness what happened on this kibbutz called Kfar Aza on the border of Gaza. The mayor herself is the one that walked us through. And I mean, of my 30 times to Israel, without a doubt, this is one I will never forget. The things we saw, the stories we heard, still the smell that hung around, and this was over, almost 2 months later. Like, it was very difficult, but at the same time, seeing all this, hearing it, firsthand from a survivor who lost family, friends, loved ones there, and not in quick deaths either. It was sad, horrible situation.
Yeah.
There was no way that any of us could leave the same person and not go back without doing something about it, telling our friends, telling our family, getting the message out, what really happened, that a lot of people are trying to dismiss online. But it was powerful. It was heartbreaking. And, it kind of, the response, meeting with some of the troops that we met with, that we were fortunate to spend time with in different areas, it had that kind of that patriotic, not defiance isn't the word, but, almost like the Masada thing where
Some
they,
camaraderie. Yeah.
even though the worst thing happened to them since the formation of the country, and the Holocaust, like, they're ready to fight back. And that's what happened. People left their homes without getting clear commands to go down there and help, knowing that they're facing, armed terrorists with rifles and bulletproof vests. All they had was a pistol. Countless people did that to go and do what was right. So yeah, it left me speechless there. The feeling of the ground shaking every time the artillery would go off on both sides of us. And then above us, Apache helicopters firing in, supporting troops that had run into trouble. And like, it was very real. And that consequences of that day, we were watching unfold in front of us in Gaza. Josh, how about you?
It was intense. I mean, like you said, Matt, you're walking through, it's this ideal place to live. I was walking through going, man, I've got 3 young boys. This would be awesome for them to grow up here. Like, you have everything here. And it looked like such a beautiful place to live. The people were super incredible, very hospitable. But as Tommy was saying, the mayor that brought us through, you start at the beginning where it wasn't too affected by Hamas. But once you make your way back to the kibbutz, I mean, you just see the massacre that took place and the stories. I mean, every single room. This guy jumped on a grenade to save his wife. This one, she was texting for help. I hear a man in Arabic, and then the next text she sends out, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. And she's 18 years old,
Mm.
and so these stories you're hearing in real time, it just, like Tommy said, you can't be the same person after witnessing that. One thing I'll never forget was we smelled something. This was, like Tommy said, almost 2 months afterwards. We smelled something and we didn't know what it was. All the bodies had been cleared, but I think there were some body parts that were left somewhere, and we could certainly smell it.
Mm.
And the mayor, the lady who lives there, she picked up on it as well and had to tell someone to maybe go take a look at that area. So, I mean, it's just like Tommy said, you can't be the same after seeing something like that.
As we look at the future and what's to come, one of the things that we've been talking with you about is putting together a trip to come out there and bring some people. But this trip is much different than the trip that we had planned for October 8th. We were going to be taking another one in April that was going to, let's go enjoy and float on the Dead Sea and have a lot of fun riding camels. And everything's changed and it's different. But we're talking about going there to stand in solidarity with the Jewish people, to be able to serve the Jewish people. Why is this necessary? Why? I mean, you guys are dads to young people. You are family men. You have wives that you love, and they probably love you as well. And so, you're going back next month. You're going back the month after. We're talking about let's go maybe in April. Why is this for the Christian in America listening? Why is this a good time? Why should we go?
Yeah, I mean, as we were mentioning earlier, Tommy and I had both been there around 30 times, and this was by far the most impactful time we've ever been. The Jewish people are open, and they need support. They need the love. They feel like the U.S. has turned their back. They see the videos of marches going on throughout the world, marches going on in campuses here in the U.S. And so they do think that nobody's standing with them. So what's a better way to go show them your love by showing up and putting your boots on the ground? And I think it's the time to go. I think it's the time to show the love to them, to just go in. Hey, even just to hug them and say hi to them. You don't have to go in and try to save the world, but just to go and show up. One of the mayors we met with, he says, your presence here is enough. That to us is enough. And so my message to people is now is the time to go. If you really love the Jewish people, you love Israel, and you've wanted to go for years, this is the time to go.
That's good.
Yeah, you can't just stand with the Jewish people and the people of Israel during the good times. Like true friends and real characters developed when times are tough and it's difficult, and there is a hint of danger. There's that just proves your love for them and your care for them is by going in a time that isn't necessarily the best time. It's there's things going on, and it's there's an active conflict going on, but on the other hand, it's like you can't go there on a normal Bible tour and like have a great time celebrating and seeing these sites while the Jewish people are suffering and fighting. But on the other hand, it's like, how powerful would it be to go there and stand with them in their time of need, in one of the most, one of the worst things to happen to them since the Holocaust? How powerful is that to go and show up in person, love on them, stand with them, and, support them? So.
Yeah, we want to be watchmen on the wall along with them.
That's right.
Absolutely.
For them.
Well, to that end, what we'd like to just say for those of you who are listening, if after listening to this you still have that call and that pull, it's certainly something to pray about. But if you still want to go to Israel after hearing all of this, then join us and get your name on a list. We're collecting just a special email list for those. This is not for everybody. The chances of you hearing an air raid siren, the rockets are going off, are incredibly high. This is not like your normal, let's go to the gas station and ride the camel and have lots of fun. This is a different tour with a different bent, and we're going there with different purpose. But we want to invite you, if that's something that you, as we're still putting together details on all of that, go to our website, thejewishroad.com. and scroll down a little bit, and you will see there's just a quick place for you to drop your email in. And it'll be under the headline that says, "I still want to go to Israel." And you'll put your email there, and we'll stay in touch with you as these details emerge. Josh Doyle, Tommy Doyle, thank you guys for coming and sharing your story. Thank you for friendship in the midst of all of this over the last year, and we're thankful for you guys. If people want to connect with what you're doing in your ministries, how might they do that?
Yeah, they can go to unchartedadventures.co or unchartedministries.com. And thanks for having us on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great to be with you guys.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Ron.
Yeah.
And what we say, and this is our heart, and we know it's your heart as well, we say, Sha'alu Shalom Yerushalayim.
Yeah, pray for the peace of Jerusalem, especially today.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Amen.
guys. Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom.